Hello, everyone, and welcome to Green Hope Foundation's UNEA-5 YEA partner event, Youth Nature-Based Solutions and the Sustainable Development Goals. I am Kehkasha, the founder president of Green Hope Foundation, and a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our panelists and our audience joining us from across the world on Zoom and Facebook Live. So Green Hope Foundation has been a very active voice in all UNEP conferences and dialogues, including the GMGSF since 2012. And our endeavor has always been to provide a platform through civil society where especially young voices can meaningfully engage in the critically important environmental dialogue that is the bedrock of sustainability. And now, as we come out of the pandemic pause, there is almost a universal and unanimous agreement that the process of rebuilding better and ensuring the creation of a peaceful and equitable world needs to be based on the framework espoused by the Sustainable Development Goals. And we also need to focus on solutions that are nature-based and not at the cost of our planet. Today's discussion brings together an international panel of experts who will discuss the challenges and opportunities that all stakeholders, especially youth, need to collaborate on and focusing on nature-based solutions in the accelerated localization of the Sustainable Development Goals. So with that, I hand it over to our moderator. Over to you, Pragna.
Thank you so much, Kakashan. Hello, everyone. I am Pragna, the head of events of Green Hope Foundation, and I will be your moderator for today. Climate scientists tell us that the window to stop runaway climate change started closing in 2020. And biologists tell us that we are on track to lose 2/3 of all wild animals by 2030. The recent IPCC report on climate change shows that we have only 12 years to shift our economy away from fossil fuels. And as the world recovers from the drastic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, it has pushed an additional 88 million people into extreme poverty, added more than 80 million into the total number of people undernourished, increased student dropout rates, and widened the gender gap. While these statistics are unnerving, they are, unfortunately, the harsh reality that we live in. It is no doubt that we have pushed humanity to a dangerous tipping point. So it is time to reevaluate our actions. We need to implement innovations that focus on long-term prosperity, social and economic benefits, and a healthy environment, rather than ones that focus on short-term income generation. And nature-based solutions is the perfect example for that. We need to harness the self-healing property of nature to build back better from the pandemic and provide solutions to climate change. This is the main essence of our work at Green Hope. It is safe to say that nature-based solutions are intricately linked to the achievement of the SDGs. However, to unlock its full potential, multilateralism and intergenerational solidarity is crucial, especially the involvement of the younger generations. So, on that note, I am pleased to welcome our amazing panelists for today. Our first panelist is Sarah Swenson, independent consultant on climate, forests, and sustainable development, and a member of Green Hope Foundation. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'm happy to be here. I'm actually sitting at home in Sweden, and it's very cold outside. It's like -20 last night, and right now -10. So it's very different from being somewhere else in the world. Like the last 6 years, I lived in Suriname in South America, trying to my best to protect the Amazon rainforest. So it's very different to be back home now. But it's good to see you all here, and there is nature everywhere, even here. in the winter. So, well, for me, I think that it's absolutely critical that we see to the nature, like to the planet as it is. Like we know that the planet will change with the environment we are in, but the question is if life on Earth will survive and will manage to thrive in the future as well, and if humanity is as stupid that we will drive our own species into extinction, or if we can turn this around and build back better and create a sustainable future for all. And I really hope that we can do that. And the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs are really the best tools we have to, like the good framework to gather us all around to create this together on all level and in all countries. So it's really important that we make this happen. And if the goal is to make sure that humanity can still survive in a good way on this planet and live in harmony with nature and with each other, then we really have to use to use all the dimensions of the sustainable development, to use economy as a means to get there and not as the goal, but to see life as the goal and to use the planetary boundaries and the ecology as the what we need to care about to stay within this. So right now with COVID-19, we see that much of it is caused because we didn't care enough about nature, but nature also offers many solutions to reduce the impact of future disasters. So we really need to care about nature. And I think that young people, or I know that we as young people and all generations, but we have a lot of energy and innovation, and we need to use our will and our ideas to be solution oriented and flexible and to make the change happen that we need. And technology can solve some things, but not if it is on the expense of nature. We really need to give nature the space to heal itself. Like we cannot build back the nature, but we can be there to support it by giving nature space to create itself, like to to make life prosper. I think that it has a lot to do with not only the changes that we can see in our world, but also what happens inside every person on the planet, like our thought systems and our feelings and attitudes and values and our worldview, what we care about and how we care about each other. So I think that it's really important to recognize that as well and to find the techniques that make us feel more connected to each other and to nature. Because when we are out in nature, we can get the support to strengthen our self-awareness and also our compassion and empathy for other living beings. And that is really, really important, I think. So I think it's important to start early with children. Like all children should grow up close to nature and to know what it is like to be part of this and to feel interconnected with each other and with nature. And I did that as a child. I was very lucky to grow up in the countryside in Sweden. And when I was bullied at school, then I said I still have a lot of friends. All the trees around are my friends. And it may sound stupid, but it's really scientifically proven also that if you hug a tree, it makes you feel better. So, and when I moved to Suriname and talked to the children that grew up in the rainforest, it's really something that they learn from very early age. Like they grew up with the rituals and ceremonies where they go out in the forest and they learn to pick leaves that they like. And before they pick the leaves, they have to ask the plant if it's okay that they pick them. And then they collect a lot of plants and beautiful flowers that they like. And then they take them in silence and put them with natural water. And then they shower with it. And then they stand there barefoot and they feel more connected with nature. And I think that kind of rituals are really important. It may not be the ritual itself that makes a difference, but the things that it reminds us of, that we are all interconnected and that we need to care about this planet and all the living beings on it. And there's so much that we can do. Like, we can help nature to take more space, like spread seeds around and plant trees and just support that. And I think that it's really important to work together across national borders. I came from a rich part of the world, a developed country, but I really wanted to understand what it's like in other parts of the world. So I have been living in different developing countries and stayed for quite a while, so that I really became part of the society and could learn from the people there and work together. And I think that's really key, that we work together and feel like one community on this planet. We are really part of a global community, and we need to see things with a global perspective to be visionary and to make the change happen that we need. And young people have so much to do with this. We may not have all the money to do it, but we can really create this connectedness and the feeling and the collaboration across borders. And we can use creative tools like art and music and poetry to connect with the feelings in people and make good change happen. So I think that nature-based solutions are really important, and we have to create that more. So thank you for this for now.
Thank you so much, Sarah, on highlighting the importance of looking at all dimensions of the sustainable development and using economy as a tool to reach there rather than the goal itself. Once again, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us. I will now like to move on to our next speaker, Erin Isabel, Outreach Officer, Green Hope Foundation. Erin, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here today and touch base on a crucial topic: youth, nature-based solutions, and the SDGs. Planetary balance and nature-based solutions are certainly pivotal when it comes to achieving Agenda 2030. The agenda's primary outcome is eradicating poverty and achieving sustainable development while ensuring that no one is left behind. And nature-based solutions are essentially solutions that are inspired and supported by nature. They're cost-effective, provide environmental, social, and economic benefits, and help build resilience. Integrating these solutions into our framework to achieve Agenda 2030 will likely bring more diverse nature and natural features and processes into our cities. Our planet is facing a climate and biodiversity crisis. Millions of animals and plant species are now threatened with extinction, which is actually more than ever before in human history. And simultaneously, the climate emergency threatens to expose millions of people to extreme heat waves and could leave 1 billion people affected by a sea level rise within decades, amongst several other impacts. Alongside transformation in our energy, land, urban, and industrial systems, nature-based solutions can play a crucial role in addressing these two crises. And according to the UN, these solutions can also provide more than a third of the climate change mitigation that is required to reach goals to curb global warming by 2030. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit us all back in Feb, it forced governments to develop safety frameworks for their citizens rapidly. And countries also struggled to fight the dawning recession, but at the same time, curb the spread of the virus and prevent hospitals from getting overwhelmed. So, along with the virus came a lot of economic disruption and loss of employment, which further increased global inequality and threatened prosperity worldwide. The conversation shifted from climate action to tackling the pandemic because at that stage, everyone was vulnerable. So communities leaned more heavily on the natural systems on which they depend, systems that play a vital role in supporting employment. More than 1.2 billion jobs in farming, fisheries, forestry, and tourism are dependent on the effective management and sustainability of healthy ecosystems. It is safe to say that half of the world's GDP is also reliant on nature. So we can conclude that destroying vital ecosystems will have an enormous economic as well as environmental and social cost. So nature-based solutions offer an opportunity to create immediate jobs while at the same time supporting a transition to a greener and job rich economy. When talking about how young people can drive this process of recovery and promoting nature based solutions, we can look at initiatives such as the Bond Challenge Tree Planting Initiative, which has become an exceedingly well known initiative for helping achieve the Paris Agreement on climate change, which has so far seen more than a billion tons of carbon dioxide removed and 300,000 plus jobs created. Therefore, having young people actually lead initiatives like this can lead to massive breakthroughs, such as those by the Bond Challenge Tree Planting Initiative. When looking at developing countries that do not have resources for regeneration, we can look at what countries like Canada are doing. They work with bilateral, multilateral partners to support environmental sustainability. For example, funding to the Global Environmental Facility, a partnership of 18 agencies that help developing countries implement international environmental agreements. In addition, charity organizations working internationally need to centralize their focus on grassroots projects. Embracing more community based and localized approaches to managing natural resources and sustainable development will shift the focus from the availability of resources to the management of the available resources. With the proper allocation of resources, there's undoubtedly scope for significant regradation in multiple aspects. I genuinely think that the future of this planet is solely dependent on the actions that we take. So it is imperative that we think meticulously and at the same time, with a sense of urgency, implement nature based solutions and ultimately achieve Agenda 2030. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin, for sharing your perspectives on how nature based solutions not only help in mitigating climate change, but also on how they can create new job opportunities. With that, I would like to invite our next speaker, Tamhidul Islam, young advocate, Bangladesh. Tamhidul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pragna. So hello, everyone. My name is Tamhidul, and as she said, I'm a young advocate from Bangladesh. So I'm very glad to be here with all of you like-minded people who have love towards nature. If you take a glance at the 17 SDG goals and you think for a couple of minutes, you will see how every single one of the 17 goals are directly or indirectly intertwined with our environment. For instance, food, sanitation, hunger, or good health. All of these are contingent on the proper conservation of Mother Nature. Talk about economic growth or industry infrastructure, responsible production. Uh, these are massively influenced by our efficiency in using the environment and balancing the ecosystem. If we, as human beings, are to ensure a sustained pipeline towards the SDG agendas 2030, there is no other alternative but to maintain the symmetry of nature. What is important to note here is that without prioritizing nature, without integrating the environment and its priorities in our own demands, we have no other alternative but to get and reach the solutions in a sustained manner. We cannot solve the problem of the main stakeholder without tailoring the solution around it. So if toned to the simplest terms, nature-based solutions broadly refer to catering to any real-world problems with a specific attention towards the environment. For instance, it could be integrated river basin management systems, it could be climate adaptive cities, or restoring and conserving forests, etc. During the urgent time that we're passing now through with the pandemic and the overall ecological disaster that we're witnessing, we're already too late into the movement, which has been backed scientifically. If we are to take our last shot at saving this earth, saving our home, we need to act right now. Firstly, for any nature-based solution, it's given that even in the worst of cases, we will not cause any harms to the environment like we do every other day. We have to develop our state of living infrastructure and strive for growth anyway, but that doesn't have to come at the cost of compromising the nature. Instead of creating seawalls, dams, reservoirs, we can restore and conserve flooding. Example that I would like to put utmost emphasis on is that our very own natural bodyguards that we have in Bangladesh, the Sundarbans. For those of you who do not know, it's the biggest mangrove forest in the world. The sheer number of times this wonder of nature has saved countless lives, properties, and hopes of people by defending the coasts of Bangladesh from huge floods, typhoons, and it is the living proof as to why nature-based solutions are undisputedly the most effective. Instead of making short-term barriers with taxpayers' money and destruction of the environment, ensuring the conservation and the expansion of Sundarbans is more than enough to save our coastal communities in the specific geographical locations. What's exclusive here is that, first of all, the solutions, nature-based solutions, essentially are much more sustainable, but they also do not come at the expense of us compromising the vulnerable side of the nature as well. There are multiple other natural blessings that we have in our country, such as such fertile land, advantageous weather, versatile biodiversity, and whatnot. Nature has always been to our aid, but us abusing the environment, exploiting it, brings nothing but unavoidable backlashes, which are here to stay. And in order to make sure that we sustain these blessings, only government initiatives are not enough. I think that active participation of the youth, engagement and activism in policy level for the youth, for instance, real-time field work in mediums of volunteering, innovation, entrepreneurship, etc., are what's gonna accelerate the initiative that we as species need to take right now. Um, Even though the biggest contributors to the global warming, climate change, and environmental misconduct are unanimously the developed world, still the ones left at the most vulnerable position are the developing countries. It's primarily because of the fact that they do not possess the same coping mechanisms and they do not have the ability to systematically tackle the issue. But it's also because even after having resources, they're unable to allocate them efficiently. I think that the global community has quite a few things to do here. It ranges from funding to specific causes to initiate projects with voluntary supervision. So what's important to note here is that just because we as human beings live in different countries, we have different geographical locations, our problems are going to be different. It is not the case. The moment in time we put our home, the earth, at risk is the moment in time we expose every single individual to vulnerability and our future generation as well. I think that in order for us to cater to this issue and to make sure that it's in a sustained and systematic manner, there is no other alternative but to go hand in hand with the nature. Um, what we can also do here is that without the unity of all the countries and the people, it's impossible to even use the resources for the greater good, let alone adapting to the urgency without the resources. Hence, I think that it's important that relevant communities, organizations take targeted approaches towards addressing the issue at hand as of now. So as I've already stated before, that the solutions that we're talking about here are exclusive in the sense that we do not have to go against the nature or for the nature in order to work with it. What we have to do is we have to create the solution that is around the nature, and we have to make sure that whatever we do not expose the nature to any threat that it cannot save it from. Because unlike us human beings, nature is not selfish. Unlike us human beings, nature cannot defend itself. What it can do is give whatever is in its limits to us human beings for the betterment of us. And the only payment that we can give to the environment and our Mother Earth is to ensure that all the blessings that they have provided to us do not go in vain. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thamidul, for speaking about the Sundarbans. We at Greeno Foundation have worked and continue to work in the Sundarbans. And yes, they do act as natural barriers against storms and cyclones, protecting coastal communities. Also, for emphasizing on the interconnectedness of nature with the SDGs and how they depend on the efficient use of natural resources. With that, I would like to invite our next speaker, Anshita Egde, member, Green Hope Foundation, India. Anshita, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pragna. So, if I'm talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, they have three dimensions: economic, social, and environmental. Global environmental emergencies such as the climate change could cause social and economic damages apart from the environmental changes far greater in magnitude than what was caused by the current pandemic. Hence, it is of utmost necessity that for a durable and resilient infrastructure, We must involve ourselves in environmentally sound investments and activities. A forefront in ensuring this is nature-based solutions. It can provide over one-third of the cost-effective climate mitigation needed, and these solutions align themselves with the Sustainable Development Goals as they support vital ecosystem services, biodiversity, and improved livelihoods. In the current COVID-19 situation, when millions are affected by loss of life and livelihood, nature-based solutions can help reconstruct the economy and simultaneously place the building blocks for a more sustainable society. Nature-based solutions are thus credible and capable of delivering at large scales if implemented with proper investment. Action is needed now to ensure that they achieve their full potential. There are currently many examples of practices and many emerging creative initiatives which truly can help in the process of recovery. For example, in Green Hub Foundation, we plant indigenous trees in different parts of the world. We educate people about the need to conserve land and grow organic. We have started our Grow Your Own Food campaign, especially during this course of the pandemic. We have planted mangroves in the Sundarbans, on the Atlantic coast in Suriname, and in Bali to protect the coastal areas from flood. Most often in developing countries, some of the phenomena relating to environmental degradation are caused due to necessity and not greed. A country with high population density and not enough resources would naturally overexploit the resources available to them, and this leads to environmental erosion. However, strict law implementation on environmental pollution and proper planning for sustainable development would increase the capacity of current resources and also create new resources. The global community plays an important role to help reduce the magnitude of this problem. Developed countries can help the poor and developing countries reduce their dependency on their limited resources by providing them with their own surplus resources and sharing their knowledge on clean and sustainable energy, which would help the developing countries address their economic objective while focusing on a clean green development. Proper funding by the global community to the developing countries would also help them and will go a long way in saving the world from an excessive climate change scenario. Another key factor is community involvement. At the community level, youth groups like the Green Hope Foundation help spread information and get people educated, thereby involving them in the process and starting sustainable change from the root level. This is the role of young people. We have the power to start a change, however small it may seem. The young people can drive this process as we can educate the people about the advantages of nature-based solution in their daily life and the dangers of the negative impact of climate change. Also, in this age of social networking, we can exhibit a larger outreach, spreading our ideas and solutions. Collectively, I feel that this would be a good start to minimize the exploitation of environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anshita, for talking about the importance of investments in climate finance and also for highlighting the need to involve all sections of civil society in this movement. I would like to now invite our speaker, Aryansh Mohapatra, member Green Hope Foundation UAE. Aryansh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pragna. I'm really glad to be part of this webinar. And here I will discuss why it will be integral to consider planetary balance and nature-based solutions in achieving Agenda 2030, and as well as help in the process of recovery from COVID-19. So planetary balance and nature-based solutions are essential to achieve Agenda 2030. This can be seen in the use and development of medicinal herbs to treat common ailments. Part of planetary balance is human development, and medicinal plants have played an important role for this development. Throughout the years, scientists have studied and found out alternative medicine, such as herbs to treat common illnesses, which is known as homeopathy. The herbs can vary depending on the illnesses, such as ginger, which is used to treat stomach problems, or aloe gel, harvested from aloe vera plants, that can be used to treat sunburns. These methods and practices have also been very cost effective and can be extracted from your crops. Therefore, more people in general will be able to have access to alternative medicines. In today's day and age, growing your own organic food is an excellent way of staying healthy and at the same time helping the environment, which is exactly what we do through Green Hopes Foundation Grow Your Own Food campaign. Another example of a nature-based solution is the conservation and restoration of freshwater resources. Contaminated water has posed a greater risk for contracting many pathogens for many years. But with this new foundation, there will be less contaminated water in the rivers, which has arisen from littering in the larger marine ecosystems, such as oceans and seas. We, Green Hope Foundation, have seen these impacts firsthand in Bangladesh, where contaminated drinking water leads to tooth decay, skin disease, as well as death. The World Health Organization has led global efforts to prevent the transmission of waterborne diseases and has advised governments on the development of health-based targets and regulations. The development and implementation of water safety plans by water suppliers have been effective to identify and manage risks from catchment to consumers. There has also been independent surveillance to make sure these guidelines have been met. Additionally, Green Hope Foundation has installed deep bored tube wells, rainwater harvesting systems, and toilets in the villages of Bangladesh to ensure clean water and sanitation for everyone, as well as safeguard water quality for aquatic organisms. Well, now, the COVID pandemic has shown the world that the destruction of our natural environment has a profound impact on human well-being. Unemployment has already soared in developed and developing countries. Therefore, people have started to invest in nature-based solutions. Thousands of small and medium-sized enterprises are active in forest and land restoration efforts, which could contribute directly to job creation and economic growth. Another nature-based solution is to tackle air pollution. Air pollution can contribute to a weakened immune system and people may be more vulnerable to the COVID-19 virus. Reduced pollution from factories could decrease the amount of greenhouse gases trapped in the Earth's atmosphere, which could significantly improve air quality. Governments can implement quotas to eliminate negative externalities, and civil society can take local actions to move forward and more sustainable lifestyles, carbon neutral lifestyles. Pollution is one of the many environmental challenges facing the world today. The impact of pollution is more severe in developing countries, leading to ill health and disabilities of millions of people. Developed countries have the resources and technologies to combat pollution. Countries such as China or the US can give economic aid to less developed countries at a time of economic crisis. There are developed economies like in the OECD, which are also focusing on environmental sustainability globally. I think FDI, foreign direct investment, could play a key role in the development of the less economically developed countries. Therefore, compelling countries like those in the sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia to pursue environmental goals, particularly in reducing greenhouse gases, will require substantial economic, technological, and financial support from developed countries and the international community to compensate for the economic losses. So in overall, we as a global community need to tackle these obstacles in order to achieve Agenda 2030. And we can do this by the use of nature-based solutions, especially at a time right now where there has been a massive economic downturn due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And the sooner we take these actions, the quicker we will see the results. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aryansh, on highlighting the importance of planetary balance in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and for talking about our work at Green Hope Foundation in implementing nature-based solutions. You also mentioned about how the global community, especially the developed nations, can aid developing countries in this process. So thank you so much once again for sharing your perspectives with us. Now, I would like to invite our last speaker for today, Aliyu J. Busa, Chapter Head, Green Hope Liberia. Aliyu, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Brianna. And I think I'm experiencing a bit of our internet problem, and I won't be able to come with a video. I'm sorry. But okay, thank you for the introduction, and thank you to all of my previous panelists who have brilliantly put forth all of the focus point on our discussion today. Uh, Planetary balance and natural based solution are basically two distinct tools in the achievement process of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Planetary balance, the Earth is increasingly experiencing a huge increase in our global temperature, which is causing not only environmental problem but series of other health problems for the world. Such a problem could likely be the current pandemic that we are faced with. These are environmental causes that have been made to be transferred into another form that is causing a world crisis for us today. Natural based solutions can also be instrumental tools to solve some of these problems. The solutions to the sustainable management and use of nature for tackling social environmental challenges. Challenges such as climate change, water security, water pollution, food security, and human health. Climate change is one of prevailing situations that the world is faced with, and us using a natural based solution could be of a great help. One could be of us making our own food, which is investing into organic farming. Or we at Green Hope, we believe so much into producing our own food, or as the great work from the group from UAE and other parts of the world that Green Hope has helped. Currently in Liberia with the Green Hope Health in obtaining of organic farming, we are set to implement one of our project in educating community dwellers on the importance of organic farming and how is it helpful to combating future environmental problems. Natural-based solutions are actions to protect, sustainably manage, and restore the natural or modify the ecosystems that addresses societal challenges effectively and adaptively, simultaneously providing human well-being and biodiversity. Definitely with the provision of a clean water, that also could be of a great solution in combating some of the challenges that the world is faced with. And then how can nature-based solution help in the process of the COVID-19 recovery? The natural-based solutions in so many ways can help us to recover back as a world in a more stronger and better ways. One, we have to invest more into organic farming. We have to invest into clean energy, which is directly connected with the Sustainable Development Goals. And the scale of natural degradations and exploitations are more pronounced in certain regions, mostly in developing countries, and how who do not have the resources for their regeneration. How can global community come together in this regard, and what needs to be key drivers? So this is a problem or with my own country, Liberia, as a developing country, or degradation, deforestation, or landfill, water pollution. These are daily basic activities that people or residents of Liberia basically do. And then let me dive deeply into reason why it is kind of difficult for developing countries to curtail some of those problems. lack of equitable distribution of natural resources. Developing countries like my country, Liberia, we have numerous of natural resources. Those resources has been exploited by national government basically, and then uh, community dwellers does not feel the impact of those exploitation, but basically get the negative effect from the environment, like for sea erosion, from flood, from uh, pollution and everything. We and one of the reason to that is to degradation and deforestation is, as I said, a lack of equitable distribution of natural resources. So this is a quick uh, story. If you have a country like Liberia, where you have abundance of natural resources, and people who own the natural resources basically have benefit nothing from it, but it has been exploited, and they only receive the negative effect on their environment and on their health. So there is no sustainable job. There is nothing like a sustainable or any form of economic system that will improve the people's life. So there is huge experiencing into logging into our forest. There is huge experience in into hunting of wildlife, and almost every every part of our biodiversity has been affected by this process. uh, these are reasons why I think international community need to come in. International communities, they pay like for Liberia, for Norway, we receive more than 6 million US dollars every year to reserve our forests. But some of those funds are sent in, and basically there is nothing done. For the fact that someone have sent them report, maybe whatsoever entity have sent them report, they already know that okay, this has been implemented. No, that is not the case. So I'm urging international community, if you want to help developing countries like my country, uh, we want to help. We help in food. You being a direct supervisor, come and see basically what is happening, because some of those funds come in and then they have been mismanaged, and yet and still our environment is at risk. Our forest is depleting on a daily basis due to community dwellers activities, be it logging, be it farming. So international community need to take as a responsibility to make sure that whatsoever funds have been given to any other government, that it is implemented to the fullest. I would like to stop there, and then thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aliyu, for emphasizing how nature-based solutions is a cost-effective and sustainable way to alleviate poverty, improve health and food security, increase economic prosperity, and of course, to recover stronger from the pandemic. Thank you so much for also highlighting the deep inequalities in the distribution of natural resources and how the indigenous communities are affected the most. I would like to thank all the panelists for such an insightful discussion. We will now move on to our question and answer session. Our first question is from
I think I see Duty's hand up. Our first question is from Duty, so we shall be promoting you to a panelist.
Thank you, panelists, for such an amazing discussion. My name is Dyuti Vasupal, and I am a member of Green Hope's Children's Board. My question is to all the panelists. Some environmental disasters are now an annual occurrence, such as the wildfires in California. What should be done to at least reduce these predictable disasters?
Would any of the panelists like to answer the question?
I would like to thank you very much for the question, Ruti. So I think one of the primary reasons as to why these kind of occurrences happen again and again is mostly because the people are not sensitive enough towards the nature. So for something like wildfire, even though the impacts of this are extremely vast and oftentimes insurmountable, and you cannot even like calculate and quantify how much damage has been done. However, the reason is very small as to someone might have just left a cigarette butt and didn't like make sure that the fire wasn't put out, or a campfire maybe that wasn't put out properly. Because of these small reasons, oftentimes disasters take huge tolls on us. So I think that to answer your question, it's important for us as human beings to understand what's at stake here. So instead of taking that particular event and seeing that as one specific event, what we need to do is we need to actually empathize with nature and understand that how big of a thing that is and how interconnected it is to our lives. Without the forests, we probably wouldn't survive. We've already seen what happened in California on wildfires and how much damage has been done. So basically, I think that is important for us to actually empathize and understand what's at stake here, and then take every decision that we take as individuals. Only then we can address the issue as human beings and stop the small casualties taking huge misconducts on us and then leaving a toll that we cannot cope up with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamid. Would any of the other panelists like to answer?
Okay, let me go. Okay, thank you so much for such a brilliant question, because I think is indeed a recent issue that annually that people of that part of the world will observe or use or lost. One of the ways that the wildfire can be stopped is uh, more investment into our fire department, that they're going to be on site for an early stop to a widespread of the fire. Because this is what happened, as the previous panelists answered, people are not environmentally sensitive, and then people go about doing, or I mean, just dropping left a cigarette or whatsoever anywhere, and then that cause a fire, and then there's no one there like on the spot to kind of situation to stop a bigger problem. And then at the point where it reach a larger problem that need more investment or more uh, labor force to come and control this problem, and then it become difficult, and then it become a state problems. So I think we need people to be on site like most of the time.
I'd like
Thank
to
you so
add.
much, Ali. Yes, sorry, go ahead, Erin.
Okay, so basically the California wildfires that were very recent, it actually came about because of one gender reveal party. And the worst thing is that this is not the first time an event such as this has happened. In April 2017, a similar gender reveal party had started in Arizona, and it started a week-long wildfire which burned through 45,000 acres of land. So I think we need to take actions as civil society that do not conform to closed-minded ways of thinking that negatively impact society. And at the same time, think about the environment and, as my fellow panelists said, empathize with nature at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Anyone else? All right, so we'll move on to our next question. Our next question is from Shania. Shania, you'll now be promoted to panelist.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
everyone. Okay, thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Shinaya. Thank you, all the panelists. This has been a great discussion. My question is for all the panelists. With millions of youth out of school due to COVID, there are now greater challenges to our engagement and empowerment. Can you suggest some ways to bring attention to this issue and possible steps for mitigating this?
Thank you, Shania. Would any of the panelists like to answer?
I think the best way would be through webinars such as the ones that we already have going on right now, because I mean it's the most direct method of communication with youth across the world, and you don't have to be physically there for it, of course. So as long as you have a working internet connection and you know what event is, you will be able to get a lot of information across very effectively. So I think that's one effective method.
Thank you so much, Erin. Would anyone else like to answer?
I would just like to add to the point, social networking in general, we can get from all parts of the world and forward the issues.
Thank you, Anshita. Anyone else? All right, so we'll now move on to our next question. Our next question is from Narayan. Narayan, you'll be promoted to panelist now.
Thank you. First of all, greetings to all the panelists. My name is Narayan and I'm from India. My question is to all the panelists. Water scarcity is one of the major threats to the problems that we're facing. What policy changes should be made, according to you all, to address this issue?
Thank you, Narayan. Would any of the panelists like to answer?
Let me go. So I think we need to focus is mostly on inclusiveness. Uh, and then if we focuses on inclusiveness, so every other policy that would be made, I mean, we have great policy as a word. We have made great speeches. People have made great promises and commitment to creating a better world. But these are not being achieved because one felt left out. So, I mean, we need inclusivity in every form. And then if everyone feel part of the problem, definitely everyone going to work towards solving this problem. So, I mean, I don't think that we need extra policy. I think we really just need inclusiveness.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. Would anyone else like to answer?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I can add a little bit. Like I also agree that we already have a lot of policies and a framework that we can use and build upon. And the most important is probably to move from these decisions to action and to really make things happen on the ground. And also when it comes to the sustainable development goals, to really implement the agenda on the ground. And for that, there are a lot of new policies needed from the local governments, the municipalities where I work, for example. So that's something that we can all, in the places where we live, try to push our local politicians to implement the global policies that are already there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Now we'll move on to our next question. The next question is from Ananya Orpe. Ananya, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm Ananya. Such a wonderful discussion. My question is, how do you see 2021 as compared to 2020 in terms of global action on the SDGs? Which goals should get more focus and why?
Thank you so much, Ananya. Would any of the panelists like to answer?
Okay, let me take it. I think it going like that question going to have numerous of answers, and I mean there are going to be a lot of differences. But this is what I think. Um, Comparing 2020 to 2021, 2021 has just 2020 okay 20 to 21st just shows to the world how uh weak we are a bit. Because I mean like we have our epidemic, how weak we are, and how uh we are not investing, or we are not considering SDG 17, which talk about partnership. Because I mean, if we were partnering, if we were working together as a team, 2020, we couldn't have been discussing basically coronavirus by now in 2021, because everyone was going to be on the same page, everyone going to know their responsibility, and everyone going to work in food. In terms of which goal to implement, definitely I think zero poverty. Zero poverty. The reason is no one, absolutely no one in this world going to work physical work, mental work. I mean, with a empty stomach. And then some of these things we take them like okay, they are not very important, but I think it's one of the very important goal that actually I think by now we should have been able to achieve. Because if we achieve zero hunger, definitely we're going to provide quality education. Because you can provide quality education if the person that going to be receiving the education is not ready to receive it. Definitely the education not going to have quality. You're going to have people going to exploit our environment because they are in search of food. I mean, there's so much of negativity about someone being hungry. So I think goal number one, zero hunger. Uh, zero hunger.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. Anyone else?
I would like to add to it if possible. So for me, I think any goal that's related to the climate is should be given equal importance, specifically the goal number 13, climate action. So one thing that 2020 has taught to me, and I was more or less really hurt to learn that thing, is that we as human beings are really not good for the nature as of now. Dhaka city, the capital of Bangladesh, has one of the worst air indexes in the whole world. And during the first 2 or 3 months of the pandemic, when everyone was forced to be kept inside the house, that's when our index dropped by a huge margin, and we started getting less polluted air. The river started cleaning up, and even some animals could be seen in more often in their natural habitats. So I think one of the most important lessons here to learn is that human beings are more or less the reasons as to why the climate is not acting in the natural way in which it's supposed to. So I think in order for us to transition to 2021 and have a fresh start, it's important for us to learn is that we are the ones who need to accommodate ourselves and adapt ourselves with the climate. It's not the other way around, because we're the ones who are taking things from the climate and the world. And what's the worst thing that we can do is take all of these blessings for granted. So I think that's something that should be focused more on, and we need to take this lesson and carry it out for the throughout the whole year and later on, in order to make sure that we do not exhaust ourselves and nature along with it.
Thank you so much, Tamidal. Aryansh, the floor is yours.
First of all, I would like to thank Ananya for the amazing question. I don't think any one goal is most important. I think they're all important. We need to recognize the local problems of each country, region, and community, which will require different SDGs to be implemented to address those unique challenges. And one difference from the 2020 to 2021 is in 2020, when COVID first started, all countries went into lockdown. But now in 2021, we're starting to readjust. We're starting to get into a pattern, and we're implementing more policies. So that's one difference which has happened from last year.
Thank you so much, Aryansh. Would anyone else like to answer? In that case, we'll move on to our next question from Kehkashan.
Thank you, Pragna, and thank you all to all of our panelists for that amazing discussion. I think I've learned so much from all of you. So my question is, how important do you think nature-based solutions are to achieve a culture of peace and ensure a just and peaceful world for all?
Thank you, Kehkashan. Would anyone like to answer?
Thank you for the question. I think it's really important for us to note that out of many things that makes human beings more united, that unites communities all across the world, nature is probably one of the most strongest of them. And it's because of the fact that all of us benefit in huge margins from the nature, and not a single one of us can survive without the nature. So I think when it comes to peace, it's imperative that peace cannot be achieved without unity. And in order for us to achieve that unity, nature has brought us together. The urgency, one of the few benefits that the urgency has had is brought people together in order to achieve one common goal. So if you take a look at the Paris Climate Agreement, for instance, or various other high-level policies that have been undertaken by countries, you will see how people from all levels and various corners of the countries have taken a common goal and are working towards it. So I think that this is one of the few factors of peace that can be achieved through this one common goal. And the urgency only adds to us working towards the goal in a whole. So yeah, that's how I think that nature has brought us more together, and the urgency of the whole issue has made us more intimate than it was before. And that is how if we, assuming we cooperate, we will be in a better position than we are now and more united. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamhidul. Anyone else?
Definitely, let me give a shot. Okay. So this is something that I think it is a triangle. So let's just visualize it that it is a triangle, and then at the top of the angle we have our nature, and then on another angle we have peace, and on another angle we have human. So they are interconnected. Hey, you cannot be a human if you are not peaceful, and you cannot obtain peace if you don't love nature. Like, nature is what make us. That is basically what we depend on, because without nature, where will we be? So before we be a full human, we need to have respect and love for nature. Respect for love for nature is taking climatic action, preventing air pollution, preventing landfill, or finding solution for a more circular economy to avoid the current economic system that we have that is highly polluting our world. So if we do all of this, that comes to peace. Because if you protect your earth, I mean, you have high level of respect for every other species on this earth, be it a land, be it terrestrial organism, be it aquatic, be it whatsoever organism. Definitely, you're going to be peace with yourself. So you cannot obtain peace if you don't have love and respect for nature.
Thank you so much, Aliyu. Would anyone else like to answer? In that case, we will move on to our next question. This question is from one of our other audience members. Sarah, you were in Suriname and now in Sweden. Based solutions in these two countries.
Pragna, you cut out for a second there. Could you repeat the question, please?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. This question is from one of our other audience members. Sarah, you were in Suriname and now in Sweden. So do you find any difference in the implementation of nature-based solutions in these two countries?
Well, yes, nature, the two countries are very different and have different possibilities to act, but there are many common things as well, because both countries have really beautiful nature and has big parts of the natural environment still left in the country. So in Suriname, there is 93% of the country is covered by the Amazon rainforest, and in Sweden it's at about, I think, 60% of the country is covered by forest. And both countries are having policies trying to protect the nature that is still there and strengthen it and create green infrastructure and lifting up the importance of nature. But of course, it's still very different. Like Suriname is very much dependent on economical support, like the projects that are implemented there to protect nature. They are driven by the government, but funded through the United Nations and different international funds. And in Sweden, it's more from the national sources. But I think that the two countries can also learn very much from each other. And in Suriname, I found that in some cases, a lot of like some people are really feeling the connection with nature and helping to support what the government wants, while other people are more focused on trying to they want to have economical activities like gold mining and things that destroy nature. But the same thing is in Sweden, that some people are really understand that it's important to protect the nature and others are not thinking about it so much. So I think in both countries we have similar challenges as well, that we really need to feel more, like to understand more how important it is that we care for the nature and that we are truly dependent on it, and no economic activities are possible if we destroy nature in the long run. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you everyone for your pertinent questions. I would now like to request our panelists to give their concluding remarks in 60 seconds. We will go in reverse order. Aryansh, the floor is yours.
So this webinar, Youth Nature-Based Solutions and the SDGs, has allowed us to each give our own ideas to discuss challenges and solutions in implementing these nature-based solutions. And it is so important that many people nowadays are realizing more sustainable and carbon neutral alternatives to combat the major recession in certain countries, which have been massively affected by COVID-19. And by doing this, we are getting one step closer to achieving Agenda 2030.
Thank you, Aryansh. Anshita?
This webinar has given us an opportunity to learn from different perspectives on the perspectives of how others think on nature-based solutions. So I've got to learn a lot, and thank you so much for having me part of this amazing panel.
Thank you, Anshita. Tamidil, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I'd like for having me here today. What I that knowledge in general is a give and take process. So for this webinar, for instance, I've learned so much more than I've been able to provide. And give and take process, we empower ourselves, and in turns we empower the world in a whole. So I think that in order for us to achieve the goal that we're striving for, specifically the one that we're talking about today, all we need to do is we keep connecting and we keep cooperating, and then we will be able to make sure that we can achieve that goal in a system. We can future generations as well. So thank you very much again to all of you. And back to you, Bert.
Thank you, Tamidil. Erin, the floor is yours.
Okay. The future of our planet truly rests on our shoulders, as I mentioned before, and the only way we can pave a path to a sustainable and green planet is if each of us do our part. We must localize the SDGs and implement nature-based solutions. We also need to understand that the most effective and guaranteed mechanism to get something done is by doing it yourself. Ground level work and nature-based solutions is paramount to help mitigate climate change and ultimately build a world which is equitable and resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Aliyu, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for bringing that in to all of the very amazing panelists. Or indeed, is such a educational platform, and this just caution to the world that we are in the last decade of achieving all that they said for also achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I am really heartwarming that I see how youth are taking this responsibility, because it is us that are going to feel the greatest effect of all. And I will encourage more youth to localize the SDGs, makes it as a responsibility that this is what we need and this is our responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Aliyu. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this webinar. And I have also learned so much from all the other speakers and from this discussion. So I'm very happy to be here. And I am so happy that we are sharing the understanding that the Sustainable Development Goals are truly connected to nature-based solutions, and none of the goals can be achieved if we ignore nature. We really have to continue to care about nature and about each other as a global community, and to create change by supporting the planet to heal itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That brings us to the end of our panel discussion. Thank you so much to all our panelists for joining us today and enlightening us with your perspectives on nature-based solutions and its importance in accelerating the implementation of the SDGs. It is imperative that we derive solutions from nature and utilize its self-healing ability to the maximum to mitigate climate change and build back stronger from the pandemic. It will also require us to actively involve the youth in all sections of civil society to achieve the UN mandate of leaving no one behind. Today's discussion definitely showed us the path so that we can create a new normal that is equitable, more humane, and resilient. I shall now give the floor to Kehkashan.
Thank you, Pragna, and thank you to all of our panelists once again. That was such an exhilaratingly engaging discussion, and our dialogue today reinforced the fact that rebuilding better from the destruction caused by the pandemic needs transformative solutions, ones that are nature-centric, processes that collaboratively engage all stakeholders, especially those who are the farthest, as every single one of our panelists have said today, so that the new normal is one where economic progress is not exploitative, but in balance with nature and society, and which in turn creates peaceful societies for all. So, as the voice of present and future generations, Green Hope Foundation will continue to provide space for discussion and dialogue to support our ongoing work at a grassroots level. So, together we can and we will change the world and really create that future we want, one that, again, as all of our panelists have said, is just, equitable, resilient, and sustainable. Please stay safe, stay connected, and take very good care of yourselves and your loved ones. And we shall see you soon at our next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
See you. Bye bye.